This is the cream of the crop.
What's up, everybody, and welcome into episode 3 of my Resident Evil on Netflix series review and summary. Let's get right in to episode 3. Its name is The Light, and we open up on Umbrella and their infomercial about their new drug, their new pharmaceutical named Joy. It's a new antidepressant. Evelyn is giving an interview on the new pharmaceutical breakthrough, touching on her father and the past and how he was pushed out. But this drug will bring Umbrella back to the forefront of this world. Of course, she is asked about Old Raccoon City, and she laments, talking about how in the past there were mistakes, but what they are working on today will change the world. We flash forward into the present day, and Jade, she's trying to escape all of these people on the docks shooting at her, and she, of course, jumps behind some cover, but then looks to her left and sees a young boy in distress himself, bullets firing out overhead. She then puts herself back into danger by going over to save the boy. She grabs him and jumps into a shipping container, and we get the title card. Shortly after the title card goes away, the family of that child bursts in through the giant metal door, and they're reunited. It's a little bit of a happy moment in all of this absolute craziness. Now, back to the past we go, and Jade returns home to check on Billy, who is still inspecting her feral bleeding mouth in the mirror of the bathroom. Albert returns home immediately, confronted by Jade, though, asking what is for dinner to distract him from going directly up and checking on Billy. She then even says yes, sir, to him, which makes him immediately suspicious, as Jade is never really that cordial and is never really that nice to him, and she immediately rushes back to check on Billy. Albert then goes down into his lab to find that the mouse has burst out of its cage and is hiding behind a different piece of technology in the corner of his desk. We go back to the present, though. The family inside of the shipping container, Jade chastises them, as they are a family, for not just taking the legal ferry. And she then finds that they have contraband. They're using it to sneak across the channel, and by selling that contraband, they can pretty much pay for their life to be resettled, but it puts them directly in the crosshairs of Umbrella. They discuss the only other option. It's a tunnel. Jade offers to pool their resources and go together to this tunnel. They need one another. It's their only hope in this situation. Back to the past, and Wesker has now caught the mouse and has started to inspect it. Checks the blood underneath a microscope, and this is where things are interesting, as the mouse's blood is already starting to be infected. You can see where the red has penetrated inside of that blood cell, and the other ones are about to find themselves getting into that same infectious state as well. But if you take a look here, Billy's blood is not being infected. It's fighting the infection off. It's fighting the virus away from itself. And I think that's one of the most revealing things in this series thus far, is that Billy is somehow, I don't want to say immune, but is at least fighting off the infection to this point. We're going to flash forward a little bit, and Jade is driving, talking about her past. Same Jeep from episodes 1 and 2, and they're discussing where they came from, discussing how they got here, and of course that leads Billy and Jade in their past endeavors. Jade finds herself reminiscing on what happened when Billy went back to school that first day after the bite. In the bathroom once again, she's having flashbacks, fever dreams, looking herself in the mirror as she readies herself for school. Jade and Albert are at the table eating their breakfast when Billy joins them, saying she is ready to return. Albert protests, but Jade immediately backs her sister in this endeavor. Albert takes on one last good look at Billy, inspects her eyes, looks at the bite, so on and so forth, but then relinquishes his daughters to school, but is clearly worried and demands that Jade keep an eye and watch her sister. As they approach the school, Simon, who is on his skateboard, is approaching the two of them. The skateboard is, of course, making noise as it rolls across the gravel and the road below him, and the noise itself is bringing back the tinnitus in Billy's ears. It's making her cover her ears in pain. She's having a little bit of a moment there, and she goes to walk away. And Jade demands that Simon stay like a dog where he is, and Billy asks why she covered her ears in pain. She blames the drugs that their dad gave them the day before. They bicker a little bit over Simon suddenly entering Jade's life. Billy goes to go inside, sending Jade back to her new boyfriend, as she called him. Jade and Simon joke for a moment, and then Jade demands the rest of the files that he sent her, uncovering the incident further that she wishes to investigate. Now back to the present day, Jade and that family have officially made it to this tunnel. They want to cross but are short on being able to pay for this business transaction until Jade offers up the vehicle. That covers everybody quite easily, as the man tells them, and all of them are getting ready to go into this tunnel. We see them loading all the civilians, everybody that's paid for passage, into this van or this caravan with a tall, muscular man standing guard, and he has a Hydra on him. And I need to find the photo for it. We'll see it in a little bit because we'll see him actually prepare it for a possible battle later on in this same episode. We go back to the past, though, where Evelyn has prepared her meeting with the rest of the shareholders, the board, and Albert himself to try to sell Joy to the board. I love the meeting room. I need to take a second to just kind of say that. It's very clean, laboratory-like. It's got the Umbrella logo and lights above it. It's very reminiscent of how Umbrella built their labs in the games and the books, how you kind of hear them being all straight lines and angles. Albert begins his sentiment with how dangerous the virus can be if someone becomes infected by it. And Joy does have a low-grade version of the virus inside of it, revealing the feral lab rat to everyone and tells them of the 3-day incubation period. He wants them to understand that this drug can destroy the company, the world even. This is no setback, though, as Evelyn shows that if they tweak the virus just a little bit, they can actually control those infected with a sound and image combo as well, making them docile, do as they wish, by showcasing a dog not chasing after a cat after frantically trying to bark at it and get to it for a few minutes. They can even use this process through phones, computers, a website, an app, and basically control the population to do whatever it is that Umbrella wants them to do. Joy can make Umbrella the biggest company in the world, not because it delivers eyes, because it will deliver their minds. Albert protests again, but Evelyn has the ultimate tipping point. She gets him to finally reveal that to overdose on this dangerous virus, a subject would have to take 20,000 pills to become infected. And that is a metric ton of them, it feels like, when you just hear that word, 20,000. We go back to the past, though, where we are in the school. We're in the lunchroom. Billy's torment began earlier in the show. She wanders mindlessly in a fever dream, seeing red until she hallucinates the dog biting at her. And when she comes to for a moment, she sees everybody just kind of staring at her. Back to the present, we now have Baxter doing his best impression to question everybody at that encampment that runs the tunnel. They have a small back and forth before Baxter sees the Jeep in the background, knowing their target simply lays ahead of them inside of the tunnel. Inside that tunnel, we find the trucks are connected by 2 bars, groups of chains, and the mercenaries are looking at each other and preparing their weapons because they start to tell everybody to be quiet. They've got to hush themselves. Everybody is kind of having these moments where they're talking about their past before they're hushed, where Jade talks about the university being a backup disc for the world. That's where she comes from, and they look to make that the tipping point to come back to regularity, come back to the modern world. They hear some noises outside and are told to be quiet. Jade figures it out. They're being hunted by lickers, monsters that don't hunt by sight. They hunt by sound. And in that bottom photo just here on this side of the screen, you can see the 3 barrels of that shotgun I was talking about earlier, the Hydra shotgun that was in Resident Evil 5 that you could use for one and only Chris Redfield. Any noise will draw every licker into a frenzy feed fest for anyone in their way. And what happens is Umbrella comes down this tunnel, lights blaring, sirens blaring, telling everybody to get out of their vehicles and with their hands up to leave their weapons to try to tell them they're under arrest. Every licker on what seems to be the earth at this point is now in their way, starts ravaging every living person in the area, anything they can get their hands on, really, shoving their tongues through their torsos, slashing, clawing at their chests. They follow a mercenary, though, through a service door and away to safety momentarily. Back to the past we go, and Wesker is sitting, staring at the mouse, and Evelyn breaks the news that the board has taken her side. Not his warning, but will continue with the production of Joy. She informs him brain control can lead to the end of all humanity's problems. Wesker pleads with her until he comes with the only thing she will listen to: dollars. If the virus were to go haywire, if people were to become infected, Wesker wants to develop a cure first, an antiviral. And the only way to convince her to be able to imagine making an antiviral and giving him any extra time is to imagine that if everybody in the world were infected, how much more money Umbrella would make if they were the only ones with a cure as well. This is where things are going to get a little dicey, because we head to the classroom where Billy is once again having another fever dream, starting to hallucinate, not 100%, not ready to come back to school, it seems like, and retreats quickly to a bathroom, tinnitus ringing in her ears, striking her in the hallway, crippling her yet again. She bumps into fellow students, fumbles around the world, going blurry until she finally has a chance to look at herself in the mirror after vomiting up some blood and bile, and she sees what she believes is herself covered in blood. That image you see up there is zombified, dark rings around the eyes, blood all over the face and chest. Just not a good look at all. We go back to the tunnel, though, in the present, and the survivors are walking through the service tunnel, checking everywhere they can for liquors or even something worse, and they come to a final dark passage where the boy collapses to his knees. They beg him to go just a little bit further as Jade approaches, points a light in his eyes, and the parents try to say he's fine. The boy rips away from the light and tries to look somewhere else. Jade figures out he's infected and tries to get the family to understand that once you're infected, you're not who you used to be. You no longer care about those you once loved, until they're interrupted by the merc screaming the word run. He's jumped by a giant spider, and this is a little nod, in my opinion, to the black tiger spider from Resident Evil 1, one of the little mini bosses in the game, just a giant spider from Resident Evil 1 in the underground passages called the black tiger spider. The father goes and grabs a metal pipe, though, and is going to go out and hunt the spider to open up the way out for his family and for Jade. Well, doesn't really matter, because this spider, it's been hunting him. He's in its lair, not the other way around. He gets impaled by one of these giant 8 legs of this spider, and it shreds him directly in half. And now the spider, it's on the run and the hunt for them again. As they go through this last door, Jade grabs a lever and is trying to get the service door to shut just in time for the arachnid to have its head split from its body. But we don't get much more of them, as we have to go back to the past to see Simon confronting Jade, wondering what is going on. Billy sees this as a chance to save her sister, shoves Simon, then Jade grabs at her and is struck as well by Billy. She runs off, gives Jade chase, only to be introduced to Evelyn Marcus, who is the big reveal? Simon's mother. The connection, the circle is now complete. Evelyn is Jade's dad's boss. Also, Evelyn is the mother of Jade's love interest. So the Albert Wesker, the employee who had 2 daughters break into the lab, owned by Evelyn, is the mother of the love interest of one of the 2 daughters, Jade. Jade will then chase Billy all the way back to their house as Billy runs off, where the confrontation completes with Billy admitting she thinks something is wrong with her, admitting that she's been denying that anything is wrong with her. The dog was infected, and in 3 days, the worst could possibly happen to her, as Jade tells her there is a ticking time bomb. To the present we go, and Jade finds herself with the family by the exit. They're very close to leaving this tunnel. They've killed the spider, cut its head off with that giant service door, and she tries to convince the mother to leave her son, and she refuses. It's an incredibly human moment in this show, and I really appreciate that the mother will not leave her son to die alone and become whatever it is Zeros are after the infection takes place. But as Jade leaves the tunnel, as she makes those final steps up top, she's confronted by Baxter and the rest of the Umbrella forces that gave chase inside of the tunnel, waiting to ambush her until a single shot is fired. Baxter's hit, and the rest of the unit immediately drops their weapons, puts their hands up, and they are surrounded by the Brotherhood. They have now captured them. The Brotherhood has taken them all prisoner, and Jade is hit with the butt of that rifle, that AK-47, and as she fades out, the episode cuts out. And that's where this episode ends. Episode 3, by far my favorite in the series to this point. A ton of little Easter eggs to the past games and books. A ton of little nods to things we should know and should recognize. Very good chase. Very good action scene with the liquors. Very good chase with the black tiger spider. I really thought it was a great episode. Really well put together. It didn't chop up too much going past and present. by far my favorite one. I'm going 4 to 4.5 out of 5 on this one. Best out of the 3 episodes thus far. I hope you'll all enjoy it, and I hope you'll all join me tomorrow for episode 4 of Resident Evil, the Netflix series. See you guys then.